time in his golf courses and his sand traps.
If a COVID-19 vaccine comes out between now and Election Day, Biden says he'd want full transparency to prove that it was not rushed by Trump administration officials.
Fox's Peter Ducey. A series of polls released since the two national conventions show Biden maintaining a lead nationally and in key states. However, the president's campaign insists internal data show a closer race. Chicago police are searching for the shooter who opened fire on a car at a red light Monday, hitting 3 people, including an 8-year-old girl who later died.
Like I said before, we're all saddened and angered by this. You know, the Chicago Police Department has recovered over 7,000 guns this year. Our officers are getting shot and shot at a record pace. We're out there every single day doing our best to protect the citizens of the city, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Police Chief of Operations Brian McDermott says they believe the shooter targeted the car's occupants on the city's south side Monday. The shooter got away in a black Dodge. And as investors return after the Labor Day holiday, they will try to gauge whether the dizzying rally in tech stocks is losing steam. The Nasdaq plunged more than 6% over 2 days after hitting a record high last week. America's listening to Fox News.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumont or call 646-1463.
Are you fed up with those long bank lines? Do you wish you had a bank who gave you faster service? Well, by enrolling in Bank Pacific's new mobile app, you don't even need to wait in line. But even if you do want to come down in person, we're more than happy to see your smiling face, as long as you have a mask. Because our service is so good, we don't believe in lines. Because for 66 years, we've been making sure you get the service you deserve. Because where others put branches, we place roots. And we're rooting for you. Member FDIC.
The Labor Day holidays just ended, and already Denver's getting ready for snow.
Soaking up the last rays of summer before it snows tomorrow.
It's like 80, 90 today. Tomorrow's gonna be like 36 and snowing.
We went out and did some paddle boarding because what's gonna happen tomorrow?
School day.
School day, and it's gonna get cold.
After being around 90 degrees Monday, temperatures will plummet by more than 50 degrees by Tuesday. Snow's expected by late afternoon and continuing into Wednesday. Pentagon officials are concerned about China's recent rise as a military power.
A new report from the Pentagon says China has already surpassed the U.S. in missile development and is well on its way to achieving its plan for military dominance by 2049. The president accusing China of, quote, not playing by the rules and cheating.
They take our money and they spend it on building airplanes and building ships and building rockets and missiles.
It's not just advances in China's Air Force technology and aspirations, but in the past year, China's Navy surpassed that of the United States for the first time. China now has 350 warships and submarines compared to 293 for the U.S. Navy. U.S. warships, many of them nuclear-powered, are far more powerful than China's, but the Pentagon says Beijing is increasing its shipbuilding for all naval classes.
Fox's Jennifer Griffin. Former NFL football player Herschel Walker calling on local leaders to put an end to rioting across the country. In a video posted to Twitter Monday, Walker argued that rioters should get federal time for destroying cities and citizens' businesses. And Hollywood says goodbye to an actor who starred in the primetime soap Knots Landing. Kevin Dobson, also known for his stints on Kojak and Days of Our Lives, died Sunday at 77. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
Pick up dinner for you and the family at Chili's. We got you covered with a variety of delicious family platter options, like our fajita trio, Cajun chicken pasta, or our crispy chicken crispers. Or order off our new menu for you and a friend and indulge in our tasty burgers, tacos, and ribs. Get your Chili's favorites in a way that works for you. Call 648-7377 or WhatsApp 929-7376 for curbside pickup orders. Or get delivery with Good to Go. Chili's, you can still savor the moments at home.
Top End Pest Control is who you call for all your pest control needs. Got a problem with roaches, ants, spiders, rodents, fleas, ticks, termites? No problem. They do it all. Top End Pest Control is a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business and HubZone certified. Serving Guam since 2012. Call them today for a quote, 487-5657, or email topendpest@gmail.com. Check them out on Facebook at Top End Pest Control and give them a like. Top End Pest Control for all your pest control needs.
Hofady, this is Kayla from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated team in Guam and the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 66 years. Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Security Title, providing solutions for complex real estate transactions.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. At least so long as I got anything to say about it. Here we are, Tall Tales after a long weekend. Boy, it's been tough on Jose and I. Along about yesterday morning, I was jonesing so bad. You know, the withdrawal from Tall Tales is really hard to handle. There's nothing like spending 2 hours every afternoon with the tailgaters all over the world, the international radio listening audience, and what I got to do without it for 3 whole days, it's tough. But we're back. And this is my favorite time of the week, 8 minutes after 4 on, it is a Tuesday. There's only 4 days of Tall Tales this week, but 4 days is a whole lot better than 3 days with no Tall Tales.
It'll be a quality 4 days.
A good, high-quality 4 days. Well, it's Tall Tales. What else could it be?
Nothing else.
That's true. So here we are, Zemi Ikotny. And, of course, some things are so constant that they hardly bear comment. The Daily News never runs local editorials. They run boilerplate they get from USA Today or Gannett News Service. 99% of the time, what the boilerplate that they get is a Trump-bashing piece. They must have terminal TDS back there at the Gannett headquarters in Northern Virginia. Today, the title is Trump's sped-up count is a recipe for inaccuracy. Yeah, and this has been around for a long time, but if Donald Trump were on the shores of Lake Michigan and he began to walk on water, the left would criticize him for not being able to swim. That's for sure.
That deserves.
Okay, so for the Post today, I've got a little bit of material here outside of the ordinary for the Post, but I have, starting out with the Post editorial, clock ticking on fiscal 2021 budget bill. In the midst of the Wuhan virus pandemic, there's a fiscal 2021 budget that has yet to become law. The legislature passed a $950 million budget bill on August 31st, just barely meeting the mandated deadline. The bill was submitted to Adelup, which has been reviewing it with obvious displeasure. Adelup pushed for higher revenue projections to be included in the budget. Now, I got to stop here for a second and explain something. You know, when the budget is put together, you start out with a revenue projection. The legislature does it, the executive does it, budget annual revenue projection. And what happens is the gnomes of BBMR get out their abaci. Would that be the plural for abacus, Jose?
I don't know, but it sounds, yeah.
If it isn't, it ought to be. Yeah.
It ought to be. I think there is only one there, though.
Yeah. Yeah, they pass it around, right? So the gnomes of BBMR get out the abacus, and they do all kinds of calculations, what they collected last year, trends, etc., and they say, well, this year, this is how much revenue we are going to collect. And then after that, they decide how much of that revenue they're going to give to the different parts of the executive branch. $8 million for the legislature, around 20 for the judiciary. And then they hold public hearings. And if the anticipated revenue is not enough to fund all of the government agencies in a manner that the governor thinks they should be funded, she will speak up. And that's exactly what's happened here. The revenue estimate is not high enough to parcel out the money the way the governor would want it to be parceled out. So the easy answer to that is, well, just increase the anticipated revenue.
Increase anticipated revenue.
Yeah.
That's a long way to say a three-letter word.
Yeah, so you increase the anticipated revenue. Your budget passes, the governor signs it, everybody's happy, everything's fine until you get into the year and you don't have enough money to fund all of those things in the budget. So then the gnomes of BBMR get out their abacus again, and they start deciding who's going to get stiffed in the budget, in the allotment process, who is not going to get their full allotment. It's almost always the university and the Guam public school system. So the quick answer, well, let's just increase our revenue estimate. It just doesn't work very well. And I've used this before, but there was a comic strip once upon a time called Dagwood and Blondie. And Dagwood was, this was so typical of the era, probably up through the 70s. Dagwood was the typical good-hearted, bumbling husband who was always subject to his wife's dictates and lack of sophistication. Blondie, well, what was her name? That kind of tells you everything you need to know. Blondie was a classic dingbat, and one of the famous Dagwood and Blondie strips showed Blondie telling Dagwood, I don't see how we could possibly be out of money in our checking account. I've still got checks left. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. Well, if there isn't enough anticipated revenue to fund all the agencies, just increase the anticipated revenue. So Adelup pushed for higher revenue projections to be included in the budget. The governor said she was optimistic that despite tourism's downturn, military spending and more financial assistance will help the local government meet its financial needs. Senator Regine Biscoe Lee, also known as Senator Raging Lee, because the way she spells her name, she puts a primary accent over the E, which means that in the word, it shouldn't be pronounced Regine. The stress should be on the first syllable, Regine. easier just to say raging. Raging Bisco Lee submitted during the legislative budget session an amendment to increase revenues for withholding tax by $4.6 million. So Senator Raging Lee knows how it's done. Unfortunately, her amendment failed. In the past week, Adelup has sent out several press releases outlining why they believe the budget bill as it is currently written won't work. The series of press releases titled Budget Not Balanced highlights problems, according to Crystal Paco San Augustine, formerly known as Crystal Paco, that they're finding as they review the budget bill. Budget Not Balanced press releases have pointed out, 1, an $8.5 million mistake with Medicaid child health insurance program. 2, 30 continuing and carrying over authorizations from prior years' appropriations which are not supported by new revenues. 3, 13 million less in federal Medicare funding for Guam. 4, Guam Department of Public Health and Social Services operations appropriations is short $3.7 million when compared to the agency's request. Highlighting these issues is fair, but also should come with solutions. Well, the solution is just increase the anticipated revenue. That's easy. Another illustration of this phenomenon is a friend of mine who, when we were living back in Wisconsin, a friend and I had to bunk in, and I was really cold because my blanket was too short. My blanket was too short, so if I pulled my blanket up around my chin, you know, my feet stuck out about a foot. And my friend, who wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, saw that, and I said, geez, I wish I had a longer blanket. And he said, that's easy, Bob. Just cut a foot off the top and sew it on the bottom. You'll be fine.
That is genius.
And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Oh, we don't have enough money we don't have the $13 million we need for federal Medicare funding? Increase the anticipated revenue. No problem. Some senators said they've never seen, as you were highlighting these issues as fair, but should also come with solutions. This is particularly necessary since Adelup stopped participating in budget discussions when it became apparent the legislature didn't agree with its revenue projections. So when the gnomes of BBMR said this is the revenue projection, and Joe San Augustine said, well, the finance and budget says that's too much. We're not going to be bringing in that kind of money. Apparently, the gnomes of BBMR went on strike, and they said, we're not coming back here. Whatever the issue and whatever the history, our legislative and executive branches need to work together to get a budget for the new fiscal year. The current budget law expires September 30, so the clock is ticking. If there is anything we should have learned in our experience with Wuhan virus, it's that we cannot afford to waste time pondering, playing political games, or analyzing to the point of paralyzing any forward movement. If Adelup has serious doubts about this version of the budget, then the governor should veto the bill and provide some recommendations so the legislature has a starting point and time to put together a new budget for fiscal 2021. It should be a budget that is realistic in terms of revenue projections, but also ensures core government services for the people are maintained. Yeah, well, you got it today, Guam Daily Post. star goes to the Post. That brings the Post up to 217 blue stars, and the Daily News is still stuck at 57. Okay, I had a couple of other things from the Post that I thought were a little bit newsworthy. There was a letter to the editor from a doctor named Dombrowski, and it starts out good. I don't know. MD, personal responsibility leads to national transformation. During our recent Wuhan virus pandemic, we've been duly educated and mandated wearing masks, social distancing, practicing hand hygiene, but not one word about the potential impact of diet and nutrition on health outcomes. When it comes to lifestyle-related chronic diseases such as obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, poor diet and nutrition is the prime contributor. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported that among Wuhan virus cases, the most prevailing underlying conditions were cardiovascular diseases, 32%, and diabetes, 30%. Hospitalizations for those with underlying conditions were 6 times higher than those without underlying conditions. Deaths were 12 times higher in those with underlying conditions compared to those without. In Italy, 99% of the deaths have been in those patients with pre-existing conditions. These conditions, such as diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and metabolic syndrome, are strongly linked to a diminished and undermined immune system and unrelating symptoms and complications from Wuhan virus. So far, so good. Makes a lot of sense. But this train starts to go off the rails. 88% of the U.S. population is metabolically unhealthy. 88%. Now, how can Western medicine claim superiority during an epidemic of obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease? Obesity, I think all of these things are matters of individual responsibility. You know? Yeah, I know I have an acquaintance who's, like 300 pounds overweight. And I said to him, "Did you ever think about going on a diet?" And he said, "Fat chance of that."
I don't know if I should honk that one.
Yeah. If you are in an automobile accident, yes, we have the best technology to keep you alive and in one piece. But when it comes to health and well-being, Western medicine fails miserably. Okay, I'll still buy it up until now, because I'm going to really oversimplify here and give you my impression of how medicine works. If they can't cut it off or give you a pill for it, they think this isn't medicine. And you do a little reading and you can find out that actually food and exercise are medicine. You have a good exercise regime. You don't dine on Spam on the half shell. You're a careful eater. You're careful not only with what but how much. A good exercise regime has a very strong prophylactic effect. But doctors don't really get too involved in that. They think that, I shouldn't say how they think. I get the impression that the medical profession talks in terms of vitamin supplements and things like that is a high-priced quackery that is guaranteed to increase the vitamin content of metropolitan sewer systems, but has little effect other than that. So here's where Dr. Dombrowski goes off the rails. Western medicine fails miserably. big food, purveyor of corporate crap, deserves some blame. Big food, purveyor of corporate crap, deserves some blame. Dr. Robert Lustig, author of The Hacking of the American Mind, The Science Behind the Corporate Takeover of Our Bodies and Brains, said, if you look at the Supreme Court decisions that took place in the mid-70s and mid-80s, they took away individual rights and loaded up on corporate rights in a very distinct fashion. Now, I'd like to see this guy's bibliography here because I don't know what in the world he's talking about. Obviously, there's an enmity here for Citizens United that holds that corporations have First Amendment rights when it comes to campaign spending. But other than that, I don't know what this guy is talking about. But, of course, if you are of a particular political persuasion, the demon in almost every story is big corporations. Corporations can say anything they want whenever they want. Truth be damned. There's a good solid sentence. Let me repeat that. Corporations can say anything they want whenever they want. Truth be damned. Our epidemics of obesity, diabetes, food shopping, and opioids are outgrowths of corporate dishonesty, of course. As Lustig writes, we are now seeing the advent of the post-truth society because of how the Supreme Court chipped away at our individual rights. Regular listeners of the program will know I'm no defender of the Supreme Court, which I have labeled the upperest branch of Congress. We have a lower house, the House of Representatives, a middle house, the Senate, and then the uppermost house is the Supreme Court, which can not only make laws but amend the Constitution if it feels like it. But even I am kind of lost here. Let's see. We are now seeing the advent of post-truth society because of how the Supreme Court chipped away at our own individual rights. By doing so, corporations have affected our ability to experience pleasure and happiness. They've inserted propaganda into our limbic system, our reward-generating system, so that we constantly seek reward at the expense of our own happiness. This is why we live in the world we live in. Soon, corporations and government will be one and the same. This starts talking about diet and nutrition, and he makes some good points, but then somebody must have grabbed the steering wheel and just turned it as hard as he could to the left.
Reel it in, doctor. Reel it in.
Yeah. Look what's going. Now here's the coup de grace. Look what's going on in the White House today. The nightmare scenario is being played out. It's fascism in the sense that we don't have a voice in this situation. This is not fascism in that corporations tell us what to do. It's that we citizens have abandoned our responsibility for our own health, safety, and well-being. The new normal is to be self-responsible for your health, well-being. The new normal is to maintain your aerosols, wear a mask or gaiter. Don't be a fool. Educate yourself. So he winds up fine. It's that we citizens have abandoned our responsibility for our own health. And I can go along with that, but boy, there's about 3 paragraphs in there that, my right hand was almost paralyzed when I was reading those 3 paragraphs. It was so hard to the left. Okay, I've got R. Carl on the line, and I've got Dr. Vince Akimoto on the line. So Dr. Vince Akimoto probably has to do some slicing or pill prescribing. So I think I better take him first, and then from there I'll go to R. Carl. So hang on, R. Carl.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
They're back. Any footlong is a $5 footlong when you buy one at regular price. At participating locations, Subway, eat fresh.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Horizon Properties. Doing real estate since 1978. 14 years here on Guam. Call Maria Miller from Horizon Properties at 777-7792.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Vince, I was so anxious to get you on the line, I didn't notice that Jose was putting us on a break, but here you are. So what can you tell us today, Vince?
Well, first of all, just want to apologize to our Carl. I promise not to take too long. I'm sure he has something very important to say, too.
Well,
but,
and also your safety's at risk because he's the most dangerous man in the room.
Okay. That's well noted. I think the issue of self-responsibility and everyone doing their best to take care of their own health rather than relying on somebody else to do that is probably the best advice that we can take today. I did not hear it myself, but I guess the rumor going around the clinics is that the hospital administrator, Ms. Lillian Posadas, had made a plea to the community to avoid going to Guam Memorial Hospital unless it's absolutely critical, because they are definitely up to their neck in COVID-19 patients, many of whom are on ventilators fighting for their lives. So it's a tough situation at GMH. Hopefully the next couple of days things will get better, and we're certainly appreciative of the doctors and nurses who have left their own families and their own homes to come and help us for working for FEMA. Their assistance, I'm sure, is going to be very valuable, but they're going to leave, and we're going to still have to pick up the pieces. And so the issue for the next several days to the community is, please do what you can to not get sick. And I know this almost sounds I guess superficial, but there really is no other way to put it. The hospitals are both full. GRMC has been trying to, the regional medical center has been trying to divert patients back to GMH because they feel that they're overwhelmed as well with patients who don't have COVID-19. GRMC experienced a patient who was dead on arrival in their emergency room with COVID-19. Both hospitals are being overwhelmed with both COVID-19 as well as other very serious medical problems. And so what can you do about it? Don't drink too much. Don't get into a car accident. Don't get into unnecessary fights. At this point in time, everybody just needs to take a deep breath, pray.
Listen to Tall Tales.
Listen to Tall Tales. Well, sometimes when I listen to you, sir, my blood pressure goes up. So then I start using bad words and I feel better. I don't know how that works, but my blood pressure goes down every time I use certain words. And at any rate, I don't encourage that for everybody else, but there are frustrations and things that we cannot change, so we might need to accept it for the moment. This is not the time to throw each other under the bus. That would create more work for the emergency room. And like I just said, our goal for everybody is to stay safe and make it through this very difficult time, because you will become an unintended casualty of COVID-19. You may not have COVID-19, but if you're having a heart attack right now and they forget about you in the corner because they're busy with COVID-19, or if you get on this merry-go-round of ambulances being diverted from one hospital to the other and you die, of your heart attack in the ambulance, you're still going to be dead. So the moral of the story, and then I'll make way for the most dangerous man on radio, our Carl, is stay alive. Don't die. Don't get mad at each other. Right now, this is a real good time to keep your blood pressure down and listen to Tall Tales, and try to be, just be ready for the next week, because next week I think we're going to have to pick up the pieces, figure out how we can do this better. But right now, we're in it. This is the super typhoon of COVID-19 this go round. No one can promise that it won't happen again, but what we need to do is be better prepared. We got caught with our typhoon shelters down. We got caught unprepared. We don't have water. We don't have gas. We don't have Spam. Right now, we're getting our butts kicked.
Tadza biskutsu.
Tadza biskutsu. So, tadza letzi, tadza Spam. Everybody stay home. I manyalangan.
Okay, Vince. Very poignant, well spoken, and coming from a voice of authority. Thank you for sharing with our tailgaters today.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Vince Akimoto. Okay, I'm going to go to Carl, but I noticed that Andrew Camacho has kind of posted what I'm going to label as a pep talk here. Andrew says, this human race has survived bubonic plague, smallpox, polio, and the 35th Guam legislature. We survived the Wuhan virus. So far, we almost made it. Looks, I guess that gives it. We got to give ourselves pretty good marks for resilience.
We have 50 more days to go.
Yeah, to survive the 35th Guam legislature. Okay, let's go now to the most dangerous man in the room, our Carl. What can you tell us, our Carl?
Maybe we need to print up some T-shirts. I survived the 35th Guam legislature. Like the Typhoon Pamela T-shirts they gave out, and the earthquake T-shirts.
Mount St. Helens and stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to comment on a couple of things. One of them is that opinion piece by Dr. Dombrowski you mentioned. Like you, I agreed actually with a lot of stuff that he said, especially where he talks about personal responsibility. I think a lot of the problems that we have can be traced back to just passively accepting what we're told, in the media as far as food, and I think that leads to a lot of problems. Probably the two of the major problems we have on the island are obesity and diabetes. And if we educated ourselves more, I think a lot of those things would start to go away. There's a really excellent PBS documentary I saw some time ago called In Defense of Food. And basically the bottom line idea of the documentary, which was narrated by Michael Pollan, who's a award-winning nutrition researcher and author. But his bottom line idea was summed up in 6 words. Eat food, not too much, mostly plant. And that's actually pretty profound. If I had the time to explain it, but if you watch a documentary or you read any of his books, it would be clear what he means by that. But just education is so critical. I mean, I go to the store virtually every day. I walk past all kinds of junk that's been fractured. The brand has been taken out. The vitamins have been taken out. The minerals have been taken out, and it doesn't affect me at all. Because I've educated myself, I've watched enough and read enough that I understand about using whole foods as nutrition, as, like you said, medicine. And so the corporations aren't bad. You know, they're simply responding to market demands. The market tells them what they want. You've got companies that sell fantastic whole foods. You know, Dave's Killer Bread is my favorite bread. I buy it all the time. And it's a corporation. They're responding to...
Horror of horrors. I think the Dombrowski point is corporations bad. Corporation equals bad, right?
Yeah, they're just responding to market demands, you know, and the market, a portion of it, a growing portion, is educating itself about whole food nutrition, and the corporations respond to that. They see a demand. They see that there's millions of buyers for these health foods, so they start up health food companies, and they're corporations. So they're not bad things. They really do provide a lot of good stuff. They're just a measure of the demand of the marketplace, and the marketplace is just millions upon millions of buyers that have desires that they want fulfilled. The other thing I want to comment about is about the hospital, and you know, all the talk about, you know, the unfortunate situation where the ICU is being, you know, overwhelmed. But I remember not that long ago, month after month after month after month, where on the front page of the newspapers, we saw news every day on how many hospital rooms were available at GMH, and how a measure of how overwhelmed they were. So the policymakers had lots of clear warning about how on the brink the hospital was. This shouldn't have been a shock. You know, to suddenly, you know, point at this and say, well, it's the community's fault, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. The policymakers had lots of advance notice that the hospital was teetering on the edge, and all it would take is one issue like this, or one disease like this, to cause some severe problems. And that's one reason why I'm not voting, at this moment anyway, I'm not voting for any of the current senators in this legislature, because we've been through one term, and I haven't seen any progress at all on, you know, the three major issues: the decaying hospital, our decaying schools and school systems, and our decaying prison. And it's like this. It's like there's these three or more massive fluorescent glowing pink elephants in the middle of the room, and they're running around chasing mice. You know, these smaller issues.
The elephants are chasing mice?
No, the elephant keepers, I guess. They're ignoring these giant fluorescent pink elephants in the middle of the room, and they're chasing these little pink mice running around on the floor. You know, and we're just reaping what we've sown. You know, we've had lots of advance notice that something like this was going to happen. So responsibility, I think, has to go to, you know, the present policymakers, the governor and the senators, and the past several terms. You know, they've kept kicking this can down the road, thinking that, you know, it's going to solve itself, and it's not. You know, eventually we're going to come up with a situation like this, and here we are. You know, so I think, you know, those who are pointing at the community and saying, yeah, the community this and the community that, they need to go to a mirror and look in the mirror, you know, the policymakers.
Careful, Carl. You're being critical of Jana Manglotnya. and I have to, I don't know if you know this or not, but Dr. Jana Manglotnya is a woman. So you're going to have the Women's Chamber of Commerce all over you, and the government of Guam's Bureau of Female Propaganda, run by Jane Flores, is going to ask you for an apology. You can't say bad things about you can't be critical of a woman.
Well, at the moment, I'm just being critical of in general of policymakers, male or female. You know, we haven't seen any advancement, even incremental, on the major issues facing the island. And there's a lot of tinkering around the edges. You know, the woke bill, you know, that you talked about, and all these other low impact bills.
Marking the trails so that people, and you know, marking the beaches, telling people that they could drown. You know, all these, and
yeah, exactly. Well, and no one is going to die if they don't pass those bills. You know, but people are dying because of them refusing to deal with these three major issues facing the island. So
let's not forget the Romeo and Juliet bill.
The Romeo and Juliet bill. All the time we spend talking about separation. That's really, you know, if Guam were independent, we wouldn't have any of these problems. An independent Guam would not have a problem with a hospital, with a prison, with the schools at all. Well, Carl, I don't want to keep you from your secret mission. I know you're probably going to be parked on a park bench somewhere with that reading a newspaper with the holes cut in it so you can see out.
That's exactly where I am right now. And by the way, Dr. Akamoto, I think maybe he might be the most dangerous doctor in the room because he tends to not be shy about expressing
he speaks
his opinion up when things affect the Guam's public health. You know, he's not shy about it. So he's dangerous in a very positive way.
We should make a blue star for him to wear on his white coat.
Exactly. Okay, Bob, thanks for allowing me to chime in. I sure appreciate it.
Okay, Carl. So I guess we got a break coming up here, Jose.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his smile team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his smile team. Suite 119 in the East West Business Center, Upper Tumon. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his smile team.
They make smiles happen.
GRMC's cardiology department treats most complex heart problems. In our catheterization lab, cardiologists use imaging equipment to treat clogged arteries that can cause heart attacks or heart failure. We perform balloon angioplasty, stenting, and other life-saving cardiac procedures. If you suffer from a heart condition, have your provider refer you to GRMC's cardiology clinic at 645-5500. GRMC, where patients are partners.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mezcla. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and Mezcla Dos are open for takeout and delivery services. More details, call the Hagåtña location at 479-2652 or Mezcla Dos Upper Tumon at 646-6295. Get your Mezcla fix at the comfort of your home.
Okay, so we got about 12 more minutes till that big halftime show that we have every day at 1700. I've got another piece from the Post here with long weekend. A lot of interesting stuff popped up in the Post, and this is Lee Weber's column from the Post. And he says, no lockdowns. Let people make informed choice to stop Wuhan virus spread. The governor's continues decisions to wait until her current lockdown order lapses before announcing her next order is a clear indication of her lack of understanding of the inner operational workings of business and what it takes to mobilize human and other resources once they have been driven to a dead stop. And I kind of mentioned this Friday, you know, if you find out on Friday that you can open, Friday morning that you can open on Friday noon, things don't just materialize overnight. The governor should take into consideration that businesses need a little bit of advance notice on either end of these things. Weber goes on to say it is also an indicator of her lack of compassion for the tens of thousands of local families who are out of work at the drop of a hat, along with the impact that has on their children and respective families. Additionally, her definition of what is essential and what is not leaves one scratching, he said, their head. Boy. Could have said, additionally, her definition of what is essential and what is not leaves them scratching their heads. Leaves people scratching their heads. But he's got the singular they in there. I didn't think that Lee was woke. She admits that physical exercise is important, but so many of the small businesses that provide support for the same are not permitted to open. That said, keeping the island in a 14-day mandatory incoming quarantine status for, quote, everyone in the civilian community, period, does possess some eminent good sense. Also, asking military leadership to do the same, if not already doing so for all incoming military personnel, keeping them on base for that same period of time does have merit. Once again, this virus is not going to go away anytime soon, and these off-again, on-again lockdowns really only serve to disrupt the lives of our people and the entire community. It has been made clear by the head of her medical advisory team, Dr. Hua Gwen, that she has not followed their advice when they advised her not to go back to POS1. He later noted that she is free to make her own decisions after he woke up one morning to find a horse's head at the foot of his bed. While that is her choice, it leaves those in the community wondering why she even has such a group unless she is using them for cover from blame. You got it. Addressing the sources of these increased infection numbers is certainly trackable, traceable, but these repetitive lockdowns only serve to delay the inevitable spikes that will occur when people are once again released. Without an ongoing educational campaign on how to avoid getting the virus in the first place, these lockdowns are pointless. More recently added to her political mix has been Guam Visitors Bureau President Carl Gutierrez, who is sitting there getting paid on the link on KUAM, asking or telling people not to exercise their right to free speech by peacefully picketing to stop the continued lockdowns, and writers like myself from sharing the truth. So we have a group of medical personnel whose advice she apparently doesn't take as seriously as she should, and now she has enlisted the help of a former politician to assist her in calming the waters that she continues to stir up with these repeated lockdowns. Good paragraph. A good paragraph. From medical personnel worldwide, we know that this is an airborne virus that is essentially spread directly from person to person. While there is always a potential spread via objects, the majority is airborne. I'm going to hang on to the rest of this probably until after the big halftime show, and I notice I've got three lights lit up on my phone. So I've got Jim R. James, and the third one ought to be some kind of a Jimmy, I suppose, to make it symmetrical. Starting out with Jim. Good afternoon, Jim.
Yeah, hello. Like I was said before, this administration is just totally incompetent. She really needs to resign because this is unacceptable. We've been in limbo for all these months with this on again, off again thing, and it's really making the economy even worse. What should have been done, I've been saying that it should have been just a containment of the ingoing, outbound flights, and she didn't have to shut down the economy during this time. It didn't have to be shut down. All she had to do was contain the ingoing and outgoing flights to contain the Chinese virus, the Wuhan virus. But But it's never ending. It's just never ending. And she's not transparent. Her administration has not been transparent during this process. It's like, where are they planning? Where are they preparing this? Where's the leadership? It's all lacking. And we see that from day one of this.
Understood, Jim. Good points all. Matter of fact, the first thing she did when she invoked her magic powers was gut the open government law. That was not only a reality, but symbolic of her entire approach to handling this emergency.
It's like her administration's been missing in action during this whole time. We're not even getting briefings on all this. Where's she at? Is she in a bunker? Is she in a basement? How come we're not getting briefings on this more often?
Well, she is a Democrat, so I guess the basement makes a certain amount of sense.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, so I've got R. James and Mary, and I've got 4 minutes until the big halftime show. So, Mary, I don't think I'm going to get to you until after the show, so if you want to hang on, fine, or if you want to call back after the show. Going now to R. James. Hello, R. James.
How's it going, Bob?
Good.
Something that Carl mentioned a few minutes ago, and I've mentioned previously, but I'm going to touch on again here because it kind of covers multiple things that are really going on in the current, as my younger folks like to say, in the here and the now. Police officers report to the police chief. The police chief reports to the mayor and the city council members. Everybody wants to defund the police. Nobody wants to spend the money to fix the things that need to be fixed. As a former law enforcement officer, I can tell you that I don't think I've ever seen a police chief who didn't ask for more. Okay, sure, they're responsible for making their budgets, but they're not the ones who approve those budgets. And they're not the ones who solely approve the HR practices, etc. That goes on up the line, and it goes, like I said, through the mayor, through the city council, through the city planners and commissioners' offices and the different things. If it's a sheriff's department, it goes through the county, goes through the commissioner's court. The very same people that are clamoring to defund all these various different police departments and agencies across our country are the very same people who have had the ultimate power to make changes, to institute new, different, better, improved policies, and they are the ones who are ultimately in charge of the budget purse strings. But they have failed miserably, decade after decade after decade, to address the things that really need to be addressed. It's not the police officer on the street's fault. It's not the police chief's fault. It's the very same people that are clamoring to defund and to dismantle, et cetera, et cetera. That plays right into where we're at with our current administration and with GMH. I think the very first time that I actually remember and actually grasping of reports of what kind of bad condition GMH was in and how many beds were available was right around Typhoon, or right after Typhoon Karen. That's been a long, long time ago. All of our elected officials previously have known that GMH is basically a house of cards that could just topple at any time. We could have it, and it does not have to be a pandemic. Okay, God forbid we could have a mass shooter situation. We could have another airline crash. Okay, where we
Hey,
have
R.
a lot of
James.
survivors.
Excuse me, R.
But they
James.
haven't fixed it. Oh, Sorry about that.
Yeah, we're running up against a halftime show, RJ.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam,
So
93.3 FM
Thanks
and
for calling.
104.3
Get back on after the
HD3.
break if you want to.
Okay,
Fighting
thanks.
about a vaccine. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. As the U.S. passes Labor Day, the presidential candidates step up the pressure to win votes.
President Trump remains optimistic a coronavirus vaccine will be available to Americans by the end of the year and potentially even sooner.
It could be during the month of October, actually. Could be before November.
At a Labor Day news conference at the White House, the president dismissed suggestions a vaccine is being tied to Election Day for political gain.
But the most important thing to me is saving lives.
At a campaign stop Monday, Democratic nominee Joe Biden told reporters he would want to see what scientists say, but added, if I could get a vaccine tomorrow, I'd do it. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The danger from California wildfires is spilling over to other states, including neighboring Nevada.
Smoke from the fires is bringing us elevated levels of ground-level ozone. Ozone in the upper levels of the atmosphere is good because it protects us from harmful ultraviolet radiation. But at ground level, the Environmental Protection Agency says it can be harmful to the young, elderly, and people with asthma.
Les Crifton with Fox 5, Las Vegas. Tragedy strikes an Indianapolis family for a second time as they lose another 16-year-old to gun violence.
A 911 call reported a shooting. Witnesses say that the teen was standing outside an apartment complex when a car drove up. Somebody started shooting from inside. A witness tried to perform CPR to save the teen's life. He went to the hospital, and that is where he was pronounced dead.
Ray Cordopasi with Fox 59. Police say the dead teen was Amir Ford. 27 years ago, his uncle, Stevie, was shot to death during an argument between a group of friends. And Wall Street reopens this morning after being closed for Labor Day. America's listening to Fox News.
Half a day. This is Clara Manglonia from Security Title with an important warning. Wire fraud is real, and home buyers and sellers are one of the biggest targets, even on Guam. When sending money by wire transfer, be sure to confirm the wire instructions by phone, not email. In this case, it's good to be suspicious and know who you're dealing with. Let the professionals at Security Title work with you to minimize loss due to wire fraud. We are here to help.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in Hagåtña and Mezcla Dos Upper Tumon are now open for takeout and delivery services. For more information, call now at 479-2652 or 3 or Mezcla Dos at 646-6295. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with the true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine at the comfort of your own home. They take your local favorite dishes and serve them with extra flair you will only find at Mezcla. Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange appears in a UK court as he fights extradition to the U.S.
His supporters call it a matter of free speech and First Amendment rights. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange's fight to avoid extradition to the United States, where he could spend the rest of his life in jail, kicked off today at the Old Bailey Court in London. The U.S. wants Assange for espionage, jeopardizing national security by leaking hundreds of thousands of secret diplomatic cables obtained with the help of U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning. His supporters say war crimes and abuse were boldly exposed by these WikiLeaks. Detractors say Assange put untold lives in danger with his unfiltered dump of names and classified information.
Fox's Amy Kellogg. Assange faces up to 175 years in a U.S. prison if found guilty. Another tropical storm forms in the Atlantic Ocean.
We're already up to R when it comes to named storms. The National Hurricane Center naming the latest system in the Atlantic Renee. It's the quickest the Atlantic Basin has ever gotten to an R-named storm. Renee joins Paulette spinning in the water, but there is good news.
Computer models are in good agreement, both with Renee and with Paulette, that we will see both systems turning more and more to the north. It is only going to be Paulette that somewhat tries to get close to the eastern portion of the United States long term.
Fox 35 Orlando meteorologist Glenn Richards. Rob Dawson, Fox News.
If the number of storm passes W this season, the National Hurricane Center will switch to the Greek alphabet to name the next one. And a collapse at a marble quarry in a remote area of Pakistan yesterday kills at least 17 people and 11 others are missing. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
Top End Pest Control is who you call for all your pest control needs. Got a problem with roaches, ants, spiders, rodents, fleas, ticks, termites? No problem. They do it all. Top End Pest Control is a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business and HubZone certified. Serving Guam since 2012. Call them today for a quote, 487-5657, or email topendpest@gmail.com. Check them out on Facebook at Top End Pest Control and give them a like. Top End Pest Control for all your pest control needs.
Pick up dinner for you and the family at Chili's. We got you covered with a variety of delicious family platter options, like our fajita trio, Cajun chicken pasta, or our crispy chicken crispers. Or order off our new menu for you and a friend and indulge in our tasty burgers, tacos, and ribs. Get your Chili's favorites in a way that works for you. Call 648-7377 or WhatsApp 929-7376 for curbside pickup orders. Or get delivery with good to go. Chili's, you can still savor the moments at home.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 66 years.
So here we are, second half, Tall Tales, another great halftime show. R. James enjoyed the halftime show. Now he's back to ride the Ferris wheel again. Mary, please call in. We'll get you on right away. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to R. James. Go ahead, R. James.
Hey, Bob. I love the overture. You have to hang around for the halftime show. But anyway, where we left off was talking about the people that are ultimately in charge who have been derelict in their official duty to address, and not just address, but to take care of these problems for decades. And like I said, the first time that I actually remember, and it actually stuck with me, that we had problems with GMH was after Typhoon Karen. We still have problems with GMH. I mean, 2 years ago, before this pandemic broke out, we had bed shortages. There was not enough bed space. And if we got any kind of a bad, even close to a semi-disaster, let's say we had another airline coming in for a landing that crashed, but this time instead of everyone dying, we had lots of casualty survivors, okay? It doesn't have to be a pandemic. We have not had any leaders who have addressed the real, actual problems for decades. But now they want to blame it on everybody else, including the general public, who just hopefully votes people in that are going to take care of business and do things that need to be done, but they have failed to do so. And I really didn't, when she won and she took office, I really didn't expect a whole lot out of this administration, but I thought the one thing that she would do, being a former nurse, was that we would take care of some health care issues. We would take care of some problems with GMH. And I thought, okay, look, if we can take care of some of our health care issues and we can, reasonably make some changes at GMH that are not just temporary prop ups, okay, maybe the administration will have been, worth it. But at this point right now, no, it's just more of the same old, same old. Blame it on somebody else, point fingers in every direction and say, oh, well, it wasn't me, it was this, that, the other, whatever, and still don't address the actual real problems that we have at hand. And that is official dereliction of duty. That was my comment for today.
Well, it's point well taken. A point well taken, R. James. If the government of Guam procured vehicles in the same manner that they're doing everything else, they'd never buy a spare tire.
Yeah, basically they treat everything as disposable. I mean, we've been having to send people off island for medical issues for decades. We've had bed shortages for decades. We've had shortages of qualified doctors, nurses, specialists. I mean, why do we have to send so many folks off island? Well, we don't have qualified, personnel. We don't have specialists this. We don't have specialists that. Okay, what are you doing with our tax dollars? They treat everything as put it off for the next week, next month, next year, and or it's just disposable, and nobody's actually fixing the problems. Well, now we've got an actual, real situation where we could have a lot of people that need medical care. And despite the fact that they've had over 6 months to try to get ready for this, I mean, never mind the fact that we had these reports of bed shortages going back. Typhoon Karen, I can't remember off the top of my head. I was a young man when that came through our island. Typhoon Karen's been, what, almost 40, 30? I can't even remember.
1962.
There you go. Okay. I mean, it's not like this problem just kind of popped its ugly head up last week and now we need to figure out what to do with it quickly. This has been a systemic, long, decade after decade problem that they've just passed on from one to the other to the next administration. Nobody does anything about it. Now we have a real situation where there might be lots of people who need medical, and not only have they not really done very much in the last 6 months to try to get ready for it, but look at the decades that they've wasted. So I don't have any sympathy for them when they try to blame it on somebody else. But they'll turn around and make us, the people, they'll make us pay for it by shutting down our island, destroying our economy, having all of our businesses go out, bankruptcy filings through the roof, and people on unemployment like you've never seen and might not ever see again. Who knows? But they'll blame it all on us. Sure. All right, Bob. Have a good one.
Thank you, R. James. So, all points well taken. Typhoon Karen, 1962. Let's see, that would make it 20.
That's almost 60 years.
58 years ago, yeah. And I remember there was a time when the Daily News was running a box score on the front of the paper of how many people it could handle. You remember that? Yeah. How many?
I think the last time I saw that was probably 10 years ago.
Something like that. Of course, the Daily News is most of the time doesn't seem to want to get involved anymore, I'm going to finish up Lee Weber's editorial, but, sitting here, I kind of had an idea occurred to me. I'm sitting here looking at my screen, and I see that Tall Tales logo, that elongated rectangle standing, and then Tall Tales on the diagonal, a beautiful red and gold color scheme. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if there were Tall Tales T-shirts? Can you imagine a white T-shirt with that Tall Tales logo on the left side of the T-shirt? Yeah, that would be really something nice. But, you know, I'm so busy here, I don't have time to get involved with stuff like that. What is really necessary is a guy who's really good at making things happen and putting things together and coordinating things and marketing and that kind of stuff, that kind of genius. So, you know, a name just popped into my head. It was, you know who?
I have a feeling.
Yeah. How about Kazendo?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, man, that guy could do it. Yeah,
Yep.
Kazendo. Well, anyhow, that's just my idea.
Well, he's an inspirational person for you right now.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to finish up Lee Weber's editorial here. He's been pretty hard on the governor here about the knee-jerk shutting everything down, kind of what I've euphemistically referred to as the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland. When something displeases her, off with their heads. And he winds up by saying this, as Dr. Thomas Shea has repeatedly said, wear your mask, watch your distance, and wash and disinfect your hands as often as you can. And then here's the call to action that he's handing straight to the governor. This is what he's telling the governor. Frightening, threatening, and intimidating the people of Guam isn't the answer. Educating them properly and repeatedly on what to do and what not to do, and taking proper remedial action when and where is required is the way forward. For the safety and sanity, mental and physical and financial health of our people, please think about what is truly the best way forward. It's a good column, a nice balance to Dr. Dombrowski's halfway good column. Okay, going from there, we go straight to the card for today. And let's see, it's been, Tina, I think, is up to 15 days for Tina, since she's had to call the legislature into emergency session and waive public hearing requirements for her bills. And let's see, I've got, starting out the calendar with separatists versus Whitey. And then I've got, let's see, did I make a mistake here? Sort my papers out a little bit here. Separatists versus Whitey, DOL versus BOSAP, apathy versus the Election Commission, Nancy Pelosi versus invasion of privacy, national government versus private property, Walter Williams versus diversity in Hawaii versus Gods and Arrows. Somehow I didn't bring along the one I really wanted. Well, it'll keep until tomorrow. Yeah, hang on a second here, Jose. Yeah, I didn't bring a couple of pieces that I should have brought along, so I'm just going to pick up then with yesterday's, with Friday's material that I didn't get to. I'm going to start out with the left versus America. A high school classmate, this is from a guy named Jeff Davidson, a high school classmate, an honor roll student and leader back then, known for her objectivity, sent a compelling letter to a handful of friends. She gave me permission to anonymously reprint the insightful letter, which I slightly modified only for length. Hello, friends. 2020 is such an important election year. I want to share my thoughts with people I believe share my concerns about a possible Donald Trump loss. In November, we will not be choosing between two old men from our traditional parties. It will be a fight between the cornerstone of our democracy, free market capitalism, and an extreme left ideology that has gone mainstream, driven by confluence of developments. 1, the rise of Black Lives Matter. Many woke young people, suburbanites, protest so they can feel good about themselves and, quote, atone for their whiteness. Most of them don't know that the 3 founders of Black Lives Matter are self-proclaimed Marxists whose agenda is to tear down and remake our country. And I have to, every time this comes up, I got to mention that we had a group called the White Coats for Black Lives Matter down on Skinner Plaza playing the Black Lives Matter card. And this is the explanation here, so they could feel good about themselves and atone for their whiteness, or at least lack of blackness. 2, people with far left beliefs. The Squad and others like them have achieved positions of power in the federal government. 3, the emergence of cancel culture. We see the rise of cancel culture causing censorship at our universities and in the media and targeting individuals like Vince Akimoto who stray, even in a minor way from extreme leftist doctrine. 4, growing entitlement mentality. A large number of the young, quote, entitled generation seek radical change. Some are now in positions of power in business and in government. They're journalists, mayors, city council members, for instance, who seek to defund the police. 5, a decline in homogeneity. In a few decades, Caucasians will be in the minority. As any population becomes more heterogeneous, widely held shared beliefs fade away. Hence, what it means to be an American, passed down from the greatest generation, will dissipate. Picture Minnesota's Ilhan Omar running things. Yeah. The congressman from Minneapolis, Ilhan Omar. 6, a sprawling Antifa movement. Despite their new official status as domestic terrorists, or because of it, Antifa in the U.S. is gaining more prominence and influence. 7, a complicit media. The U.S. mainstream media is completely in league with far-left aims, insists Antifa isn't a threat to domestic tranquility, and covers for Black Lives Matter leaders who are advocating for violence. The Antifa handbook, published by Mark Bray, lays out, for example, the group's position on free speech. Here are a few chilling excerpts. Page 143. How free is free speech? The terms of the debate often presume that anti-fascism is the only threat to an otherwise pristine state of free speech safeguarded by the American government. Rightly or wrongly, the government has placed a number of constraints on speech. It restricts false advertisement, libel and television commercials for tobacco. It prosecutes incitement to violence, protects copyrights, and it limits when and where pornographic images can be shown. Page 148, the false assumption that the United States maximizes free speech rests on the unstated fact that this right only applies to non-incarcerated citizens. Wow. You know, I never thought of that, Jose. The right of free speech only applies to non-incarcerated citizens. If you're in jail, you may not have a complete right to freedom of speech. Therefore, millions of people in the United States are deprived of elements of this freedom. In contrast, anti-authoritarians seek to abolish prisons, states in the very notice of citizenship, thereby eliminating this black hole of righteousness. All we got to do is abolish prisons, states, and the very notion of citizenship. Then we'd have freedom of speech. Rather than collaborating with oppressive regimes around the world, anti-authoritarians aspire to destroy them by organizing in solidarity with those who are actively resisting from below. Page 168. Anti-fascists conduct research on the far right online. In person and sometimes through infiltration, they dox them, push cultural milieu to disown them, and pressure bosses to fire them, and demand that venues cancel their shows, conferences, and meetings. That's what a good anti-fascist does. Although Antifa refers to the far right, they've targeted moderate liberals and centrists as well as everyone on the right. These anarchists wish to destroy the United States. We see conservative speakers prevented from speaking on college campuses and journalists bullied out of their jobs. A recent example is Barry Weiss, a centrist who resigned from the New York Times. Antifa calls this deplatforming. Many can't see these insidious changes because they're blinded by their hatred for Donald Trump. Dr. Dombrowski, are you listening? And distracted by the deafening noise of partisan politics. Trump is a narcissistic, bombastic bully, but he's also the guy who stoked our economy, crushed ISIS, gave us record low unemployment, introduced prison reform, and brokered a groundbreaking peace deal in the Middle East. And I'm going to break in here for a second. You know, I correspond with a group called the Delavan Debaters Think Tank back in the mainland. And they're one of those guys has a terminal case of TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. And his shtick is to constantly belittle people or berate people for support. How can you support Donald Trump when he, you know, making a person feel as though, or attempting to make a person feel that he is a bad person if he supports Donald Trump. Another topic, tactic of the left. And my easy answer to that is a demurrer. Law and Order notebooks here for a second, Jose. That's an archaic term from code pleading. A demurrer means even if the facts are, or assuming the facts are as you state them, Mr. Party, you are not entitled to any relief on those facts. And that's what I say when I read about, you know, Trump, and I'm not going to disagree here that he is a narcissistic bully, etc., and all these things. Everything that you want to say about him, I'll just enter my demurrer. But then I come back and ask this question: how did such a man ever get to be president of the United States? And the answer for me is really easy. It's the left. You know, whatever his faults, he's so much more attractive than this mess that the left is bringing to the United States, and they're just getting started. Imagine a President Biden with the squad holding key cabinet positions. I would expect that Ilhan Omar would be the Secretary of State. And what's her name? Rashid, I can't remember her last name, but anyhow, the 4 members of the squad would hold key positions in a Biden administration. Kamala Harris is as pro-abortion. She's more pro-abortion than our governor, if that's possible. When she was the Attorney General of California, this guy named David DeLayden and another person did some undercover journalism, and they got in and they shot some really good videos of Planned Parenthood management negotiating deals for parts of aborted babies. They had it all on video.
That goes beyond support. That's just almost atrocious.
It is. It's horrible.
Horrific.
And that's what they were doing. And these two caught these people on video negotiating prices with the Planned Parenthood folks, saying, well, in order to preserve the so-and-so, we do it this way. In other words, the abortions are conducted in such a manner to come up with the most marketable parts of aborted human beings. So you know what Kamala Harris did? Prosecuted Delaney. He's in big trouble right now. He's got a half dozen criminal cases
For
pending.
exposing that.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Invasion of private stuff.
Diabolical is the word.
It really is. Diabolical for sure. Diabolical being a derivation of the word devil. Yeah. Okay, well, Mary came back. I'm glad she did. So I'm going to put this piece aside. Mary, we're going to take a short break, and we'll get to you right after the break.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
$5 footlong. High with veggies. They're back. Any footlong is a $5 footlong when you buy one at regular price at participating locations. Subway. Eat fresh.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Horizon Properties. Doing real estate since 1978. 14 years here on Guam. Call Maria Miller from Horizon Properties at 777-7792.
Seventh inning stretch, Wrigley Field in Chicago, and wandering around in Wrigley Field, who do I see? It's Mary. Good afternoon, Mary.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you 5 by 5, Mary.
Okay, that's fine. There were several things I wanted to say to you. Is that I agree with you very heavily that all this stuff that's going on is diabolical, because it's all happened so fast. And we were doing so well in January and February, and then everything fell apart with the COVID. And as far as Akimoto is concerned, he's always been radical, but I've never heard him talk so foully on the radio about somebody. And he does owe Jana Manglonia an apology for that vulgarity. And I also have met Jana Manglonia, and she's a very wonderful doctor. And I feel that I have a lot of healthcare workers in the front line right now in dealing with this COVID in the States and in here. And I think that we don't know a lot about COVID. And so that's why, and also I read that Fauci, even though he did discover the stuff for AIDS, that he also was involved with that Wuhan lab giving money for NASA stuff, all right? And
he got some of the patent.
Yes, and the thing is that this is why I feel it's diabolical, because it's just been too easy, and they're not feeding us. And I'm not just saying about Lou. I mean, I actually think she's done an okay job. I hate this COVID. I hate this pandemic, and I hate being stuck at home because I'm old enough to have problems. But we don't really know what the whole truth is because they keep changing their mind. And when I was in the States, I just came back from the States. I left right when COVID was going down and got caught there because of the elevation. So myself and my family had to deal with this, and we were exposed to somebody who had active COVID in the house. And before that, as soon as we came in, we all got masks and we sanitized our hands the whole time. And I was able to go to church there and stuff where I was. And I think a lot of this lockdown is full of crap. But this is the only thing they have to go on.
Good choice of words, Mary.
The other thing is that I also am concerned about all the things you're talking about there, because I don't know what kind of a Democrat Lou is. But if she's like the Democrats in authority in the States, they're not going to, and this will all come to Guam eventually. I'm glad I'm back because I wanted to get out of there. But I will tell you that we used the mask and washed our hands and we socially distanced. And the kids that we had with us, where we were, had a great, they had great parks. So you could go outside and nobody was there. We were blessed because we took the kids out and let them play and run around and play soccer outside. But we really stayed home pretty much. We didn't go out to eat. We cooked at home. And but we also were level-headed about it. And I thought for sure when the person came home with the COVID, that he was isolated in a bedroom downstairs away from all of us. And he told us that they were told as healthcare workers that they would be exposed to COVID and probably get it. And but not really knowing what about it, we were freaked out. And he told us that that he was informed by his employment, and he works in an emergency room, that he came home with lost his taste, and then he started to spike a fever, but it wasn't a high fever, it was under 101, and he was tested positive. They told him that he could stay, after 5 days of the fever, that he would not be infectious anymore. And we, forget it, we were freaked out, and we just kept doing all the isolation with us, because we had young kids with us. And my sister works in a pharmaceutical company. She's an industrial nurse who they're doing the research in regards to the COVID there. And she sent me a text 10 days ago. No, maybe a week ago. And she said that the doctors were saying that there should be a COVID vaccine in her area, they said, by next summer. And that the same thing that I was told is that if you have mild COVID, like, many people do, they have it, they don't know, after 10 days, you're not infectious anymore. However, you still test positive for up to 3 weeks. And the healthcare worker that I lived with told me that they called him back after 8 days, and they said, come in, because they were in the height of coronavirus. And he went back on the 9th day, but he was fine. And I also, you need to really think about how you're going to handle it in a COVID situation in a house with people that have it. Not everybody has a private bathroom. He was downstairs with a private bathroom, and he isolated. But I think, and also the other thing is that this doctor that my sister wrote to me about, he said that Americans are not used to not really following the law. They may follow the big laws, but especially with the masks, they fought it. And because of that situation, we're going to have problems. And I do believe it's true. I really think that we need to think about it until we get a vaccine. But it's terrible to have people dying in the hospital. So the people in authority are going to be the ones to hang on to what they're being told. And we really, and I think we've been fed a lot of stuff that's not true. Remember how they said that it was on boxes from the post office and stuff like that? I mean, that wasn't true. So I'm just saying that we do need, to me, we need to listen to what they're telling us, put it in our minds, and wash our hands, wear masks when we go out, when you meet people, try and social distance. But you can't be afraid of it. I mean, they're terrorizing over this. And, yes, people get sick and die, and it's a reality. People have died. So that's all I'm saying is that, you know, what else can you do? We don't have anything else.
Well, very interesting, Mary. Thank you very much for calling and sharing your thoughts with us. I don't think you've called before, have you?
No, never. I mean, I've called before, but a long time ago.
Oh,
but
okay.
It's all right. Thank you so much.
Nice talking to you. Okay, so apparently his secret mission has been concluded. Our Carl has folded up his newspaper, is dressed in civilian clothes now instead of his trench coat and his snap-in hat, and he wants to get back on the merry-go-round, right, Carl?
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, I just wanted to just comment on your last caller's comment that, you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, people have died from this. You know, every death is a tragedy, you know, to the individual and to family and friends. But every year, every flu season, we have tens of thousands of people that die just from the flu. And according to the CDC, their own figures, during the 2017-2018 flu season, over 61,000 Americans died. I never heard about it until I looked it up. I mean, you'd think that would be kind of a big deal. You know, that's a lot of people. That's like almost a third of Guam just gone, you know. That's scary. And then the 2016-2017 flu season, over 38,000 people died. The 2015 and 2016 flu season, 23,000 died. 2014 to 2015 flu season, 51,000 died. And you can go on and on and on. I mean, you know, every flu season there's tens of thousands of people that die from the flu. And we supposedly have vaccines for various strains of flu. So even with the vaccines that they come up with and try to crank out as fast as possible, people still die. And the vaccines are only of limited effectiveness. I forget what, I think each vaccine they come up with has a certain percentage of effectiveness. You know, some are maybe, you know, 75% effective or 50% effective or whatever. But even with the vaccine, you know, it's just, there's no guarantees. And, you know, this is unfortunate, but it happens every year. We just don't hear about it.
Well,
and
the old saying, Carl, for the media, if it bleeds, it leads. So if you can't make sensational headlines out of it, it's probably not going to get a whole lot of attention. And certainly the, you know, our local media outlets, probably 75 or 80% of the content here for the last 3 months has been Wuhan virus.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, one observation I made when I go into stores, you know, like supermarkets, because I go into them, you know, just about almost every day, is the variety of masks that I see. Some of people are using the very porous masks, you know, the black fashion masks. Some people are using makeshift masks, you know, bandanas and scarves and, you know, all kinds of various masks. And one thing that's interesting about that is if you can hold a candle in front of your face with the mask on, and you can blow it out, that virus is pretty much going right through your mask if you've got it. It's not going to prevent anything. And even, you know, there's various quality of masks, but there's one, they're only of limited use. And a lot of these masks, if you look at the box they come in, there is a warning, and I'll read you one word for word that's on one of these box of masks. This product is an ear loop mask. This product is not a respirator and will not provide any protection against COVID-19, coronavirus, or other viruses or contaminants.
Well, of course, we know the mask is not supposed to protect the wearer. It's supposed to protect everybody else. But I just had another brainstorm here, Carl, when you're talking about the wide variety of masks available. I am surprised that no entrepreneur has come up with a tall tails mask. Yeah, with the tall tails.
That would definitely sell a lot.
Yeah, it would have a double function. It would have some effect on the wearers not communicating the Wuhan virus to somebody else, and then it would also tend to keep lefties away.
Another thing I find interesting is this thing, the 6 foot distance, in line. Supposedly the virus drops dead at 6 foot and 1 inch. But throughout the store, and I might have mentioned this before, I just find it kind of ironic that we're passing within inches of each other in the store aisles and throughout the entire store. And supposedly the virus can't figure out, how to leap within a few inches. I don't know, So I think a lot of what we're, all this protection that we think we're getting, and I see, orders coming out in various places or recommendations. I saw an article where a doctor was recommending that people wear a mask during sex.
Nancy Pelosi is now recommending that you wear a mask when you're washing your hair.
Yeah.
But Carl, a lot of this stuff is conditioning the population, I think. So we're conditioning the population by wearing a mask, and when you walk around, you see somebody who's not wearing a mask. Everyone has a duty to call Karen and get Karen to scold the person for not wearing his mask. As a matter of fact, yeah, there should be an app on cell phones, a Karen app on the cell phone, so that if you see someone who's not wearing a mask, you would just hit that Karen app and it would summon a Karen. And I use this example of conditioning the people the other day, but I'm going to use it again. Back during World War II, my dad was an air raid warden in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. In Elkhorn, Wisconsin, during the war, one night a week, maybe 2 nights a week, we would have a blackout, and every single light in town would have to be turned out. And my dad, as an air raid warden, was supposed to walk around and make sure that happened. Now, the chances of a German bomber flying all the way to the States, and then if it did, bombing Elkhorn, Wisconsin, somewhere between slim and none. But it really had an effect on people's understanding of what was going on. It really conditioned the public. This is serious stuff. So I suspect the mask and some of this other stuff is at least an inadvertent attempt to condition the public.
Yeah, and I always wear a mask when I go in the store. I'm not one of these people that wants to make a statement by walking around in a store without a mask on. To me, it also is psychological comfort for the people around me. I think it's of limited value. My mask tends to drop down constantly under my nose. I'm constantly shifting it up. But psychologically, if I walked in without a mask, everyone would gasp. There'd be that sound like what Real Joe plays sometimes, that the audience gasp. But the minute I put on it could be the flimsiest, most porous, most makeshift mask in mask history, and everyone would instantly be relieved. He's one of the good ones. So
he's doing his duty.
Exactly, but it makes things flow smoother. I don't see the point in riling people up, but I'm somewhat skeptical about how effective it is, and the virus just keeps on spreading. It's doing what viruses do. Viruses will virus, and it's heading toward herd immunity, like it or not. One way or another, it's going to get there. Anyway, Bob, thank you very much.
Nice talking to you again, Carl. Well, let's let's go to Churchill Downs and check on the Kentucky Derby.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumont or call 646-1463.
Hafadade, this is Carl from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future. Whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community, our dedicated team in Guam and on the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 66 years.
So here we are, Louisville, Kentucky. Home of the Kentucky Derby, which was run on Saturday, the first Saturday in September, instead of the first Saturday in May because of the Wuhan virus. And of course, true to form, Black Lives Matter had to have a demonstration in front of Kentucky Derby. It cost a lot of the vendors a lot of money, but of course it was properly, it was certainly the right thing to do because, those horses in the Kentucky Derby, they have to stop being racist. Okay, so let's see. I've got our Keith on the line. Good afternoon, Keith.
Hi, Bob. Hope you had a nice weekend.
I did.
I like your idea about the Karen app. And I was thinking about it, what voice would be best. And you'd want something that is really just sort of grating and irritating and on the nerves to convey the condemnation. And I thought about maybe Hillary Clinton or Ocasio-Cortez, but I think I'm going to settle on Greta Thunberg. It pushes the button and out comes a "How dare you."
Well, I would certainly put our governor on that list, Keith. You're not wearing your mask. COVID.
That's not bad. That's true. Or even you could even pick. You could come up with a series of choose your own voice amongst the following.
Yeah.
Are we talking about an app or putting a virus on our phone?
Well, kind of very good. Jose, give yourself a very good, Jose. Yeah.
Have a nice day, Bob.
Okay, thanks, Arkees. Yeah, so that would be the Karen app. You could choose Greta Thunberg, the governor, Hillary Clinton. What was the other one he mentioned?
AOC.
AOC, yeah. Okay, so we got about 7 more minutes till the finale here. And the next item on the card is the Department of Labor versus BOSAP. So you're probably wondering, what is a BOSAP? And it's the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, but it's better to refer to it as BOSAP. So I don't know what the Department of Labor is thinking of here, but I got a news story here from the couple-day-old news story from the Post. The Department of Labor is hiring temporary workers to help with humanitarian and cleanup efforts related to the Wuhan virus. The workers will assist with preventing the spread of the virus. There are 20 openings for maintenance workers and housekeepers for 6 months terms. Job duties include cleaning and sanitizing rooms, restrooms, and hallways, temperature screening, distributing supplies, physical distancing requirements. The program, funded by the National Dislocated Worker Grant, is seeking individuals who have been laid off or furloughed from their job as a direct result of Wuhan virus. Now, are they just trying to rub BOSAP's nose in it? Because here's what BOSAP did when BOSAP needed temporary workers. Dozens of GovGuam employees listed as census-paid workers. This is a story from the 5th of August. More than 40 government of Guam employees have worked as temporary census workers for anywhere between $23,585 to $41,766 each. Yeah, government. So we need temporary workers to do the census. Let's hire government people who are already on the government payroll to do it. GovGuam's 2020 third quarter staffing pattern shows at least 43 GovGuam employees from Adelup and other departments also getting paid with census funds. For example, a GovGuam program coordinator with a base salary of $40,762 is also being paid $38,771 for a temporary census job. Or a GovGuam school bus driver with a base pay of $28,568 is also being paid $38,771 for a temporary census job. Yeah. So BOSAP, when there are jobs that need to be temporarily filled, even though we got 35,000 unemployed, well, let's fill them with government employees, right? But
that's crazy.
It is. The Department of Labor goes out and looks for unemployed people for these temporary jobs. Of course, there's a big difference here. Department of Labor is looking for housekeepers and maintenance workers. BOSAP was looking for executives. So it's no wonder, that people get so fed up, with and BOSAP itself hired 2 of these people. The Bureau of Statistics and Plans had two of its own employees put into this program. So I think that one of the requirements that BOSAP had for those people that got those extra jobs, every hour they had to stop doing what they were doing, face Adelup, bow their heads and say, we're all in this together. Yeah. Okay.
That's a very exclusive all.
It is a very exclusive all. Yeah. Our people. Yeah.
Kind of like that that Labor Day message from GVB yesterday, thanking all the people who are diligently working.
Yeah. And those who aren't, well, you should be.
This is not for you.
Yeah. So go away, boy. You bother me. Okay, I don't know if I'll have time to finish this up or not. If I don't, I'll get back to it tomorrow. Next item on the card is apathy versus the Ethics Commission. You'll recall that we haven't had an Ethics Commission for like 15 years. The Ethics Commission was finally impaneled, sworn in at the beginning of the Leon Guerrero administration, giving the governor something to brag about in campaign season. I impaneled the Ethics Commission. No other governor before me ever did that. Okay, Governor, I have a question. What did the Ethics Commission do? Where's Janelle on that mute button? Yeah. Yeah, so I'll come back. I'll pick this up tomorrow. We've come to the finale of another Tall Tales. It's really good to be back in front of this microphone. I can't tell you how much I miss interrelating with our international radio listening audience. All you tailgaters out there, we'll see you tomorrow. So long.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Harsh words over a COVID vaccine. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News.
If the president announced tomorrow we have a vaccine, would you take it? Only if it was completely transparent, that other experts in the country could look at it.
Biden wants to surrender our country to the virus.
Democratic nominee Joe Biden and President Trump